He came to the divorce meeting prepared to erase her from his life. But the moment his wife walked into the glass-walled conference room carrying a newborn baby in her arms, Adrian Vale forgot how to breathe. The baby had his eyes, and the woman sitting beside him, his lover, the one he had chosen over his wife, slowly removed her hand from his. Because in that room, beneath the cold lights of power, money, betrayal, and lies, everyone was about to discover that Adrian Vale had not only broken his wife's heart, he had almost destroyed the only woman who had truly loved him. Please, can I ask for a favor? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Your support means a lot and helps us bring you more exciting and heartfelt stories. Thank you. Now, let's dive into the story. Elena Vale stood outside the entrance of Harrington and Cole, one of the most powerful law firms in the city, holding her 11-day-old son against her chest. His name was Noah. He was wrapped in a pale blue blanket, sleeping peacefully, unaware that he was about to enter a room filled with betrayal, pride, arrogance, and hidden war. Elena looked nothing like the broken woman Adrian had abandoned months ago. Her body was still tired from childbirth. Her face was pale from sleepless nights. There were faint shadows beneath her eyes, and her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted Noah's blanket. But her eyes were steady. Pain had changed her. Motherhood had strengthened her. And betrayal had taught her silence could be more dangerous than screaming. Her lawyer, Maya Chen, stood beside her in a dark green suit, holding a folder filled with documents that could change everything. "You don't have to do this today," Maya said gently. "You gave birth less than 2 weeks ago. We can request a postponement." Elena looked up at the towering building. "No," she whispered. "He has delayed my peace long enough." Maya studied her for a moment, then nodded. Together, they entered the building. The lobby smelled of marble, fresh flowers, and money. Everything about it was cold and expensive, from the polished floors to the security desk, where men in tailored suits spoke in low voices. As they rode the elevator to the 34th floor, Elena looked down at Noah. His tiny lips moved in his sleep. For months, she had imagined this moment differently. She had once believed Adrian would be in the hospital with her when their child was born. She had imagined him holding her hand through labor, crying when he saw his son, kissing her forehead and telling her he was sorry for every night he had stayed away. But Adrian did not come. He did not call. He did not even know his son had been born until 3 days ago, when Maya's office formally notified his legal team. Even then, he had not reached out. No flowers, no apology, no question. Only a message from his lawyer, confirming that the divorce settlement meeting would proceed as scheduled. That was the moment Elena stopped hoping. The elevator doors opened with a quiet sound. Maya touched her arm. "Ready?" Elena inhaled slowly. "No," she said, "but I'm going in anyway." The conference room was surrounded by glass on 3 sides, overlooking the gray Chicago skyline. A long black table stood in the center, surrounded by leather chairs. On the table were bottles of water, legal folders, pens, and the kind of silence that came before a storm. Adrian Vale was already there, the billionaire hotel magnate. The man whose face appeared on magazine covers, business pages, charity gala screens, and luxury brand campaigns. The man Elena had once loved with the innocence of a woman who believed loyalty could save a marriage. He sat at the far end of the table in a charcoal suit, looking sharp, composed, and dangerously handsome. Beside him sat Bianca Sterling, his lover. She wore a cream silk dress, diamond earrings, and a confidence that looked practiced. Her hand rested lightly on Adrian's arm, as if she wanted everyone in the room to know he belonged to her now. Maya pulled out a chair for her, and Elena sat down across from Adrian, still holding Noah, close to her chest. Adrian stared at the child. His voice came out low. "Elena." She did not answer. His eyes remained on the baby. "When was he born?" Elena looked at him for the first time. 11 days ago. A flicker of something crossed his face. Shock, regret, fear, maybe all three. "You didn't tell me." The words were so insulting that Maya immediately turned toward him, but Elena raised a hand slightly. "I did tell you," Elena said quietly. "I told you when I was 12 weeks pregnant." Adrian swallowed. Bianca shifted in her chair. Elena continued, her voice calm, but every word carried the weight of months of pain. "You said it was impossible. You said the timing was inconvenient. You said I was trying to trap you because I knew you wanted a divorce." Adrian looked away. That was the first crack in him. Bianca's eyes moved to Adrian. "You told me she was lying," she whispered. Adrian's face hardened. "This is not the place." Elena gave a small, sad smile. "No, Adrian, this is exactly the place. You brought her here. You wanted me humiliated while signing away my marriage. So let everyone sit comfortably and listen." Bianca removed her hand from his arm. The silence became sharp. Adrian's lawyer, Mr. Caldwell, cleared his throat. "We are here to finalize the dissolution agreement. Personal matters can be addressed separately." Maya opened her folder. Actually, personal matters became legal matters the moment Mr. Vale failed to disclose a dependent child and attempted to proceed with a settlement that did not account for paternity, child support, future care, or hidden marital assets. Adrian's eyes narrowed. "Hidden assets?" Maya placed a document on the table. "Yes, we will get to that." Elena looked down at Noah as he stirred softly in her arms. She remembered the night everything began to fall apart. It was 8 months earlier. She had been standing at the top of the staircase in Adrian's mansion, wearing the pale gold dress he once said made her look like sunlight. They were supposed to attend a charity dinner together. She had waited for him for 3 hours. Then she saw him enter through the side door with Bianca. He was not touching her. That was what made it worse. He was looking at her with the kind of softness Elena had not seen in months, the kind of softness he used to reserve for her. Elena had followed them quietly to the library. She had heard Bianca laugh. "You can't keep living like this, Adrian. You deserve a woman who understands your world." And Adrian had answered, "Elena was never built for this life." That sentence had broken something in her, not because it was angry, because it was honest. He believed it. He believed the woman who stood beside him when he was still struggling to save his father's hotel company was no longer worthy of the empire he had built. Elena had married Adrian before the billion-dollar deals, before the private jets, before the international hotels, before the world began calling him a genius. Back then, he had been a grieving son trying to keep his late father's business alive. She had been an art restoration specialist working long hours at a museum. They met during a storm. Adrian had come to the museum to inspect a damaged painting from his family estate. Elena had been the one restoring it. He had watched her work for 20 minutes before speaking. "You're patient," he said. She had smiled. "Broken things need patience." He looked at the painting, then at her. "Do people?" She remembered that question because she remembered the sadness behind it. She loved him before he became powerful. She loved him when he still doubted himself. She sat beside him through unpaid bills, boardroom betrayals, lawsuits, and sleepless nights. She edited his speeches. She remembered his mother's death anniversary when he pretended he had forgotten. She prayed with him when he was afraid to lose everything. Then success came, and success brought people who clapped louder than love ever did. Bianca Sterling was one of them. She was a luxury brand consultant from Miami, beautiful, polished, and ambitious. She entered Adrian's life through a hotel expansion deal and quickly became more than a business associate. At first, Elena blamed herself. Maybe she had been too quiet, maybe too simple, maybe not glamorous enough for the man who now owned buildings in 5 countries. Then, she found the hotel receipts, the private messages, the photos from Milan, the bracelet Bianca wore in a magazine interview, the same rare diamond bracelet Adrian had told Elena was for a client's wife. Elena confronted him in their bedroom. She was 6 weeks pregnant then. Adrian did not deny it. He stood near the window overlooking Lake Michigan and said, "I'm tired, Elena." She stared at him. "Tired of your marriage? Tired of pretending we're still the same people?" Her hand went unconsciously to her stomach. "We could fix this." He looked at her with pity. That pity hurt more than anger. "I don't think I want to." 3 days later, he sent divorce papers. She regretted loving a man who could hear he was going to be a father and think first of manipulation. After that, he moved out. He froze some accounts, claiming legal separation procedures. He refused to speak to her directly. His lawyers offered a settlement that looked generous on paper, but quietly stripped her of rights to several marital assets, including shares in a vineyard estate they had bought together in Vermont. The vineyard had been Elena's dream, not because of wine, because of land, peace, a place where she could raise a family away from marble floors and empty rooms. Adrian had once promised her they would grow old there. Now his lawyers claimed it belonged to a private holding company created before the marriage. It was a lie. Elena knew it, but knowing and proving were different things. Back in the conference room, Maya slid the first document across the table. "This is the original acquisition agreement for Silverbrook Estate," she said. "Purchased 3 years into the marriage. Both parties were involved in the decision. Funds came from a joint investment account." Adrian leaned back. "My business team handled that." Maya placed another document down. "And this is a transfer order dated 4 months ago, moving ownership from Silverbrook Estate LLC into Northline Reserve, a Delaware holding company." Caldwell's face tightened. Adrian's eyes sharpened. "Where did you get that?" Maya smiled slightly. "That is not your concern." But Adrian already knew. His gaze moved to Bianca. Bianca's face had gone pale. Elena noticed it. So did everyone else. Adrian's voice dropped. "Bianca." She looked at him, and for the first time, Elena saw fear in the other woman's eyes. Not fear of losing Adrian, but fear of finally seeing him clearly. "You told me it was just restructuring," Bianca said. Adrian's lips barely moved. "Not now." "No," Bianca whispered. "You said Elena was trying to take what she didn't deserve." Elena's chest tightened. Bianca turned toward her. "I believed him." Elena said nothing. Bianca looked at the baby, then back at Adrian. "And you said the child probably wasn't yours." The room went completely silent. Elena closed her eyes for 1 second. Noah made a soft sound against her chest. Adrian looked trapped now, not defeated, not yet, but trapped. Maya opened another file. "Since Mr. Vale has repeatedly questioned paternity, we are prepared to request immediate court-ordered testing. However, given his written acknowledgement from 3 years ago regarding the couple's fertility treatments and his documented presence at the clinic appointments before the separation, we believe the court will find his denial both malicious and strategic. Adrian's lawyer whispered something to him. Adrian did not respond. His eyes stayed on Noah. For a moment, the cold billionaire disappeared. Elena saw the man she had once loved, the man who cried the night they lost their first pregnancy 2 years earlier, the man who held her on the bathroom floor and said, "We'll try again. I promise, Elena. We'll have our family." Now their family was 11 days old, and he had missed the beginning. Bianca stood suddenly. Her chair scraped against the floor. "I need air." Adrian grabbed her wrist. "Sit down." The command was quiet, but ugly. Bianca stared at his hand. Then she slowly pulled away. "Do not speak to me like that." She walked out. Adrian watched her go, anger rising in his face. Elena looked at him. "That is how it starts," she said softly. He turned to her. "What?" The control, the cold voice, the hand on the wrist, the reminder that your love is conditional. Adrian's expression hardened. "You don't get to judge me." "I don't need to," Elena said. "Life will." The meeting collapsed after that. Caldwell requested a recess. Maya agreed, but only after making it clear that if Adrian failed to negotiate fairly, they would file for emergency financial discovery and pursue sanctions for asset concealment. Elena stepped into the hallway with Noah. Her legs felt weak. Maya guided her to a quiet sitting area near the windows. "You did well," Maya said. Elena looked down at her son. "I don't feel well." "You don't have to feel strong to be strong." Elena smiled faintly, but tears filled her eyes. For months, she had trained herself not to cry. Not when Adrian ignored her calls. Not when she attended medical appointments alone. Not when she assembled Noah's crib at 7 months pregnant because she refused to ask anyone for help. Not when the pain of labor hit at 2 a.m. and her neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, drove her to the hospital while Elena clutched the seatbelt and whispered prayers between contractions. But now, sitting in a law firm hallway with her baby asleep in her arms, she finally broke. Maya sat beside her silently. Elena cried without making a sound. She cried for the woman she had been, the marriage she had fought for, the husband who had become a stranger, and the child who deserved better than to be treated like a legal complication. Across the hallway, Bianca stood near the restroom doors, unseen. She heard enough. She saw enough. And for the first time since meeting Adrian Vale, she wondered whether she had mistaken wealth for safety. Bianca had not always been cruel. Ambitious, yes. Proud, yes. But not heartless. Adrian had told her Elena was emotionally unstable. He said the marriage had been dead for years. He said Elena refused to let go because she loved the Vale lifestyle. He said she was manipulative, dramatic, and greedy. Bianca believed him because it was convenient. It allowed her to love him without guilt. But the woman she had just seen was not greedy. She was exhausted, wounded, holding a newborn child whose father had chosen denial over responsibility. Bianca returned to the conference room before anyone else. Adrian stood at the window, speaking angrily on the phone. "I don't care what it takes. Find out how Maya Chen got those documents." Bianca froze. Then Adrian said something that made her blood run cold. "No, if Elena pushes this, we bury her. I want custody pressure, medical instability claims, whatever we can use. She just had a baby. Make her look overwhelmed." Bianca stepped backward. Her stomach turned. That was not strategy. That was cruelty. She left before he saw her. That evening, Elena returned to the small apartment she had rented after leaving the mansion. It was nothing like Adrian's world. The walls were plain. The kitchen was narrow. The heater made noise at night. The living room had a second-hand sofa, a nursing chair, and a small bassinet beside the window. But it was peaceful. No cold footsteps at midnight. No perfume on shirts that did not belong to her. No silence designed to punish her. Mrs. Alvarez knocked and brought soup. "You look like you fought a lion," the older woman said. Elena laughed weakly. "I think the lion wore Italian shoes." Mrs. Alvarez kissed Noah's forehead. "Then God will remove his shoes and let him walk on stones." For the first time that day, Elena smiled. Later that night, after feeding Noah, she found an email from an unknown address. No subject, only one line. "I believed the wrong person. I'm sorry, this may help you." Attached were 6 files, bank transfers, internal emails, a scanned signature page, a memo from Adrian's finance director about delaying disclosure until post-settlement finalization, and one message from Adrian himself. "Move Silverbrook through Northline before Elena's team reviews marital property. Keep Bianca out of the paperwork. She asks too many questions." Elena stared at the screen. Her hands went cold. Then another message arrived. It was from Bianca. "You don't owe me kindness, but I owe you the truth. Adrian lied to both of us. I will testify if needed." Elena sat back slowly. Noah slept beside her. For the first time in months, she felt the ground beneath her feet. Not because someone saved her, because the truth had finally found a door. If you are enjoying the story so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Your support means a lot and helps us bring you more exciting and heartfelt stories. Thank you. Back to the story. The next week changed everything. Maya filed an emergency motion. The judge ordered expanded financial disclosure. Adrian's attempt to hide Silverbrook became the center of the case. His board learned of the allegations. Investors began asking questions. A luxury hotel deal in Dubai was paused. Then the press caught wind of it. Billionaire hotel CEO accused of hiding marital assets days after wife gives birth. Adrian Vale, the man who built his image on discipline, elegance, and control, began to lose control publicly. He called Elena for the first time in months. She almost did not answer, but Maya advised her to keep communication documented and calm. So Elena answered on speaker, with Maya listening. "Elena," Adrian said. His voice sounded different, not arrogant, tired. "What do you want?" she asked. "I want to see him." Elena closed her eyes. "Our son has a name." A pause. "Noah." The way he said it was careful, almost unfamiliar. "Yes," Elena said. "I want to see Noah." "You wanted to erase him." "I was angry." "No," Elena said quietly. "You were proud." Silence. Then Adrian said, "I made mistakes." Elena almost laughed, but it came out like pain. "Mistakes? A mistake is forgetting a birthday. A mistake is missing a call. You abandoned your pregnant wife, denied your child, brought your lover to our divorce meeting, and tried to steal the one property you knew mattered to me." His breathing changed. "I know." "No, Adrian, you don't know. You don't know what it feels like to sit in a hospital bed after giving birth and watch the door, hoping the father of your child will walk in. You don't know what it feels like to sign emergency contact forms alone because your husband is too busy pretending you don't exist. Elena, you don't know what it feels like to be treated like a burden while carrying a blessing." Her voice cracked, but she did not stop. "So no, You don't get to call this a mistake just because the consequences finally reached you." Adrian said nothing. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. "I am sorry." Elena looked at Noah. He was awake now, staring up at her with wide, dark eyes. "For what?" "For all of it." "That is not an answer," he exhaled shakily. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I'm sorry I let Bianca sit beside me today like she had earned a place that belonged to you. I'm sorry I made you go through the pregnancy alone. I'm sorry I questioned Noah. I'm sorry I became the kind of man my father warned me never to become." For the first time, Elena heard something real, but real did not erase ruin. "You can arrange visitation through our lawyers," she said, "supervised at first." "Elena, please. No, you will not rush into his life because guilt is eating you alive. Noah is not your medicine." That sentence stayed with Adrian long after she ended the call. In the weeks that followed, karma did not come like thunder. It came like paperwork, like court orders, like board investigations, like Bianca walking away from him and giving a sworn statement, like his mother's oldest friend resigning from the Vale Foundation board and sending him one sentence: "Your wife carried your legacy with more dignity than you carried your name." Adrian lost the Dubai deal. He stepped down temporarily as CEO pending internal review. The finance director who helped conceal the asset turned against him for immunity. And Silverbrook, the vineyard he had tried to hide, was awarded to Elena as part of the final settlement, along with financial support for Noah, full medical coverage, and a trust fund Adrian could not control. But the most painful consequence was not financial. It was the first supervised visit. It took place in a family counseling center on a quiet Saturday morning. Adrian arrived early, wearing no tie for once. He looked thinner, less polished, less untouchable. When Elena entered with Noah, Adrian stood immediately. His eyes filled before he could hide it. Noah was 6 weeks old by then, wrapped in a soft gray blanket. Elena placed him gently in Adrian's arms only after the counselor gave a nod. Adrian froze. The weight of his son was nothing, and everything. Noah opened his eyes. Adrian stared at him as if seeing his own soul handed back in miniature form. "Hello," he whispered. His voice broke. Elena looked away. She did not want to feel sorry for him, but grief is complicated when it wears the face of someone you once loved. Adrian held Noah carefully, awkwardly, tenderly. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the baby. "I'm so sorry." Noah yawned, and Adrian cried, not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. Elena watched him break in a way she had never seen before. For years, Adrian had cried only in darkness. Now he cried in daylight. That was the beginning of his punishment, and perhaps, slowly, his redemption. The divorce was finalized 2 months later. There was no shouting in court, no public scandal scene, just signatures, legal language, and the quiet ending of a life Elena once believed would last forever. When the judge asked if both parties understood the terms, Elena said yes. Adrian hesitated. Then he said yes too. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Maya guided Elena through a side exit, but Adrian asked for one moment. Elena stopped under the stone archway, Noah resting against her shoulder. Adrian stood a few feet away. He did not try to touch her. He had learned that love without permission was still control. "Elena," he said, "Silverbrook was always your dream. I should never have touched it." "No," she said, "you shouldn't have. I'm going to spend a long time regretting who I became." She looked at him. "Regret is easy, Adrian. Change is harder." I know. Do you? He nodded slowly. I started therapy. Elena was surprised, but she did not show it. I stepped down from the foundation too, he continued. I'm rebuilding it with an independent board. No more image games. That's good. I don't expect forgiveness. Good, she said softly, because I'm not ready to give it. He accepted that. For the first time, he did not argue with her pain. He did not defend himself. He did not try to buy his way around consequences. He simply nodded. Then he looked at Noah. May I say goodbye? Elena hesitated, then stepped closer. Adrian leaned down, keeping his hands at his sides, and whispered, Goodbye, Noah. I'll see you Saturday. As Elena turned to leave, Adrian said, I loved you badly. She stopped. The words touched something deep in her. He continued, But I did love you. Elena did not turn around. I know, she said. Then she walked away. That spring, Elena left Chicago, not because she was running, because she was finally choosing. Silverbrook Vineyard sat on rolling green land outside Burlington, Vermont, with old stone walls, wild flowers, and a farmhouse that needed repairs but had good bones. The first time Elena arrived with Noah, the air smelled of rain, earth, and new beginnings. Mrs. Alvarez came with her for the first month, claiming the baby needed a grandmother with authority. Maya visited with champagne Elena could not drink because she was nursing. They laughed anyway. Elena converted one wing of the farmhouse into an art restoration studio. She began taking private commissions again. Slowly, her name returned to museum circles, not as Mrs. Adrian Vale, as Elena Marlowe, her maiden name, her own name. By summer, Silverbrook had become something beautiful, not perfect, beautiful. The vines needed work. The roof leaked once. Noah cried through 3 important client calls. Elena learned to hold a baby, answer emails, and direct contractors all in the same breath. But she was free. And freedom, she learned, was not always loud. Sometimes freedom was drinking tea on the porch at sunrise while your baby slept against your chest. Sometimes it was paying your own bills. Sometimes it was sleeping without wondering where your husband was. Sometimes it was no longer begging someone to choose you. Adrian visited every other Saturday at first. Always supervised, always respectful. He arrived without cameras, assistants, or expensive gifts. He brought diapers once. Elena almost laughed. You brought diapers? He looked uncertain. I asked the counselor what would be useful. That might be the most romantic thing you've ever done, she said, before she could stop, herself. They both froze. Then Elena looked away, embarrassed. Adrian smiled faintly, but he did not push. Months passed. Noah grew. Adrian learned how to hold him properly, how to warm bottles, how to change diapers, how to sit on the floor and make ridiculous sounds just to hear his son laugh. He also learned how to apologize without expecting applause. One afternoon in late September, Elena found him in the vineyard with Noah strapped to his chest in a baby carrier, walking slowly between the vines. The sun was low and golden. Noah was asleep. Adrian did not notice Elena at first. He was speaking quietly to the baby. This was your mother's dream, he said. I almost took it from her because I was too proud to admit she deserved better than me. Elena stood behind the stone wall, listening. Adrian touched one of the vines gently. She saved me once, you know, before all this, before I became stupid with money and power. She believed in me when I had nothing but debt and a dead father's company, and I repaid her by forgetting who held me together. His voice trembled. When you're older, I'll tell you the truth. Not the version that makes me look good. The truth. So you'll know that being a man is not about power. It's about responsibility. Elena's eyes filled with tears. She stepped away before he saw her. That night, after Adrian left, she sat on the porch long after Noah fell asleep. For the first time, she allowed herself to admit something terrifying. She did not hate Adrian anymore. But not hating him did not mean trusting him. And it did not mean love could simply return like nothing had happened. Love, if it returned at all, would have to knock gently. It would have to wait. It would have to prove it had learned humility. Winter came. Snow covered Silverbrook in white silence. Adrian continued visiting. He never missed a day, not once, even when his company faced lawsuits, even when reporters followed him, even when a snowstorm delayed flights and he drove 6 hours through icy roads to arrive with frozen hands and tired eyes. Elena opened the door and stared at him. You could have rescheduled. Adrian brushed snow from his coat. I told Noah I'd come. He's 7 months old. He doesn't understand schedules. Adrian looked at her. I do. That was when something inside Elena softened. Not fully, but enough to let warmth in. By Noah's first birthday, the world had changed. Adrian had returned to his company, but not as the same man. He sold 2 vanity assets, restructured the foundation, and created a maternal support fund in Chicago. Not with Elena's name attached, not for publicity, but because he said no woman should sit in a hospital alone if someone could help. Bianca moved to Seattle and started her own consulting firm. She sent Elena 1 letter on Noah's birthday. I know I was part of your pain. I will not insult you by asking for friendship. I only want you to know that telling the truth was the first decent thing I did in a long time. I hope your son grows up surrounded by the honesty we all lacked. Elena read it twice. Then she placed it in a drawer. Some apologies did not require a reply. They only required not being thrown away. Noah's birthday party was small. Mrs. Alvarez came. Maya came. A few neighbors came. Adrian arrived with a wooden rocking horse he had made himself during a woodworking class his therapist suggested. It was imperfect. One handle was slightly uneven. Elena loved it more than any diamond he had ever bought. When everyone left, Adrian stayed behind to help clean up. Elena stood at the kitchen sink, washing cake from Noah's tiny plate. Adrian dried dishes beside her. For a while, they worked in silence. Then he said, I received an offer to move the company headquarters back to New York. Elena's hand paused. Oh, I declined. She looked at him. Why? Because my son is here. Her heart moved quietly. And because, he added, the woman I hurt is here too. Not because I think I deserve her, but because I want to become the kind of man who would have deserved her. Elena looked down. Adrian, I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I just wanted you to know. She turned off the tap. The kitchen was warm. Snow pressed softly against the windows. Noah slept upstairs, surrounded by peace that had cost Elena everything to build. You broke my heart, she said. I know. You embarrassed me. Yes. You left me when I needed you most. His eyes reddened. Yes. I don't know if love can survive that. Adrian nodded, pain flickering across his face. I understand. Elena looked at him for a long moment. But I know this, she said. The man who walked into that divorce meeting is not the man standing in my kitchen. Adrian stopped breathing. And I don't know what that means yet, she continued. But I'm willing to find out slowly. His eyes filled. Slowly is more than I deserve. Yes, Elena said. "It is." He gave a tearful laugh. She smiled, and for the first time in a very long time, the silence between them was not painful. It was peaceful. A year later, Silverbrook Vineyard hosted its first public harvest dinner. Long wooden tables were set under strings of warm lights. Guests sat between rows of vines, eating, laughing, and raising glasses beneath the evening sky. Elena wore a simple ivory dress. Noah, now walking with the confidence of a tiny king, chased fireflies near Mrs. Alvarez while Maya took too many pictures. Adrian stood at the edge of the vineyard, watching Elena speak with guests. He had seen her in ball gowns, diamonds, magazine features, and charity galas. But he had never seen her look more beautiful than she did there, standing on land she fought for, in a life she built herself. Later, when the guests had gone and the lights glowed softly over the empty tables, Adrian found Elena near the old stone wall. Noah slept in a stroller beside them. Adrian held out a small box. Elena's smile faded. "Adrian." "It's not a ring," he said. She stared at him suspiciously. He opened the box. Inside was an old brass key. "The lake house," he said. "The one my father left me. I transferred it to Noah's trust. Fully. No conditions. No control from me." Elena blinked. "Why?" "Because legacy should not be another word for power." Her eyes softened. He closed the box and placed it in her hand. "And because I want him to inherit something clean from me." Elena looked at the key, then at Adrian. "You're still trying to make up for it." "I'll probably be trying for the rest of my life." "That sounds exhausting." He smiled gently. "Loving you badly was exhausting. Telling the truth is easier." Elena's eyes filled with tears. The night air was cool. The vineyard was quiet. For so long, she had thought justice meant seeing Adrian suffer. And yes, karma had found him. It had stripped his pride, exposed his lies, cost him deals, humbled his name, and forced him to face the man he had become. But justice had become something deeper. Justice was not just his fall. It was her rising. It was Noah laughing in a home filled with peace. It was Silverbrook alive with music. It was Elena no longer being hidden, silenced, or replaced. It was the truth standing in the open. Adrian reached for her hand, then stopped, waiting. Elena noticed. That small hesitation said more than any speech. She placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers carefully, as though he understood now that trust was not something to grab. It was something to be given. "I don't want to go back to what we were," Elena said. "Neither do I. I want something honest. So do I. I want respect. You'll have it. I want peace. I'll protect it." Elena looked at him. "And if you ever become that man again, I won't ask you to stay," he said quietly. "I'll spend my life making sure you never have to choose between loving me and loving yourself." A tear slipped down her cheek. Adrian wiped it gently, then lowered his hand. Elena stepped closer. Not because she had forgotten, because she had healed enough to choose without fear. Their kiss was soft, not the desperate kiss of a fairy tale, not the perfect ending of people who had never bled. It was the kiss of two people standing on the ruins of what pride had destroyed, choosing to build something humbler, stronger, and true. Behind them, Noah stirred in his stroller and made a sleepy sound. Elena laughed through her tears. Adrian looked down at his son, then back at her. "Do you think he'll forgive me one day?" Elena touched his face. "Be the kind of father who never makes him question he is loved. That will be enough." Years later, people would tell the story differently. Some would say Elena Vale destroyed a billionaire in court. Some would say Adrian Vale lost everything and rebuilt himself. Some would whisper about the lover who turned witness. Some would remember the scandal, the hidden vineyard, the newborn at the divorce meeting, and the moment a powerful man froze in shock. But Elena knew the real story. It was not about a billionaire's shame. It was about a woman who arrived at the end of her marriage carrying a baby, a broken heart, and the truth. It was about a man who learned too late that money could buy silence, but not love. It was about karma doing its work, and grace doing what karma could not. Because in the end, Elena did not get back the marriage she lost. She got something better, a life where she was no longer begging to be chosen, a love that had learned how to kneel, and a son who grew up knowing that his mother was not the woman his father abandoned. She was the woman who walked into the storm with a newborn in her arms and came out owning the sunrise. If you enjoyed this love story, please like, comment, and subscribe to see more heartfelt tales. Your support helps us continue creating the stories that make your heart race.